4 minutes. That's how long Rebecca Morrison was clinically dead on her kitchen floor. Her heart stopped, her lungs gave out, her 7-month pregnant belly went still, and the man standing over her body? Her husband, the father of her unborn child. But here's what Derek Morrison didn't count on. The paramedic who arrived to save her was a senator's son. The neighbor watching through her window had already called 911. And Rebecca? She refused to stay dead. This is the true story of a woman who survived the impossible, exposed a family's dark secrets, and fought back against a system designed to protect her attacker. From clinical death to the courtroom, from victim to survivor, this is a story about the 4 minutes that changed everything. But I need to warn you, what happened in that kitchen was just the beginning. The real battle? That came after she opened her eye. His hands were around her throat before she could scream. Rebecca Morrison had been reaching for the coffee pot when Derek grabbed her from behind. The kitchen clock showed 9:47 in the evening. She knew the exact time because she would remember it for the rest of her life. Those glowing green numbers. 9, 4, 7. The coffee pot was still warm in her hand. She had made it exactly how he liked it. 2 sugars, stirred 20 times clockwise. The perfect temperature. She always made it perfect. But Derek's hands were squeezing her throat and nothing was perfect anymore. Becca dropped the coffee pot. It shattered on the linoleum floor. Brown liquid spread across the white tiles like a stain she would never have time to clean. Her hands flew to her neck, trying to pry his fingers away. His fingers. The same fingers that had slipped a wedding ring onto her hand 5 years ago. "You had to ruin everything," Derek hissed in her ear. His voice sounded nothing like the man she married. "You could not just keep your mouth shut." Becca tried to speak, tried to say his name, tried to say anything, but no sound came out. His thumbs pressed into her windpipe. The pressure was enormous, impossible. Her vision started to blur at the edges. She was 7 months pregnant. Their baby girl kicked frantically inside her belly. Becca could feel her daughter moving, panicking, sensing the danger. "Please," she thought, "please not the baby. You can kill me, but please not the baby." Derek dragged her backward. Her maternity dress caught on the kitchen chair and tore. The sound of fabric ripping seemed impossibly loud. Becca's bare feet slipped in the spilled coffee. The floor was cold and wet beneath her. She could smell the coffee, could smell Derek's cologne, could smell her own fear. "I gave you everything," Derek said. His breath was hot against her ear. "Everything, and you threatened to call my boss? To ruin my career?" Earlier that evening, Becca had found the text messages on Derek's phone. Messages to other women. Messages about money he had taken from clients. Messages about leaving, about disappearing, about starting over somewhere far away. She had confronted him, had asked him to explain, had begged him to tell her the truth. That was her mistake. Derek's face appeared above hers as her knees gave out. She was on the floor now, the cold linoleum pressed against her back. She could see their wedding photo on the wall behind him. Smiling faces, white dress, spring flowers, a different life. His face was unrecognizable, eyes wide and wild, mouth twisted. This was not the man who had courted her with roses and poetry. This was not the man who had cried when she showed him the positive pregnancy test. This was someone else entirely. Or maybe this had always been him. Maybe she just had not wanted to see it. Becca counted the seconds. It was all she could do. 1, 2, 3, 4. She had read somewhere that the human brain could survive 4 minutes without oxygen. After that, permanent damage. After that, death. 5, 6, 7, 8. Her baby stopped kicking. That terrified Becca more than her own dying. Her daughter had gone still, silent. Oh God, no. 9, 10, 11, 12. Becca tried one more time to say the words she thought might save her, the words that used to mean something. "I love you. I love you. I love you." But no sound came. Her lips moved, but there was nothing. No air, no voice, no life. 13, 14, 15. The edges of her vision went from blurry to dark. The kitchen ceiling disappeared. The overhead light faded. Derek's face became a shadow. Then nothing. Becca Morrison died on her kitchen floor at 9:48 in the evening. But dying was not the worst part. The worst part was what came before. The worst part was the moment she understood that the man she loved was going to kill her. The worst part was knowing that all the small cruelties, all the moments she had explained away, had been leading to this. In the darkness, Becca did not see a white light. She did not see angels or hear heavenly music. Instead, she saw ordinary moments. Their first kiss outside the movie theater. The positive pregnancy test with its two pink lines. Derek painting the nursery walls a soft yellow. Simple things, small things, things that had felt like love. But underneath those memories, another truth whispered. The first time he raised his voice. The first time he grabbed her arm too hard. The first time he told her she was too sensitive, too emotional, too much. The isolation that happened so gradually she barely noticed. Friends who stopped calling because Derek always had a reason they should not visit. Family gatherings he always found a way to miss. 5 years of slowly disappearing. In the darkness, Becca heard a sound, not from the outside world, from somewhere deeper, where her baby's heartbeat, faint, growing fainter, a drum slowing down, a clock winding down, a life slipping away. Come back, a voice said. Not her voice, not Derek's, something else, something primal. Come back, she needs you. Then Derek's voice broke through, panicked, shaking. Wake up, Becca, wake up! Oh God, what did I do? His hands left her throat, the pressure released, but Becca's body did not respond. She was somewhere else now, somewhere between alive and dead, somewhere dark and cold and quiet. Derek was saying her name, over and over. Becca, Becca, baby, please, wake up, please. Through the darkness, Becca heard him dial 911, heard him speak in that smooth voice he used at work, the voice that convinced clients to trust him with their money, the voice that had convinced her to trust him with her life. My wife fell down the stairs, Derek said into the phone. His voice broke perfectly. The right amount of panic, the right amount of fear. She's pregnant. She's not breathing. Please hurry. He was good. Even now, even after trying to kill her, he was performing, selling the story, creating the narrative. Becca wanted to scream that he was lying, wanted to tell the dispatcher the truth, but she was dead. Dead women cannot speak. Dead women cannot tell their stories. Except Becca was not quite dead yet. Outside, Mrs. Chen from next door stood at her kitchen window. She had been washing dishes when she heard the coffee pot shatter, had looked out her window that faced the Morrison kitchen, had seen everything. Now Mrs. Chen stood frozen with her phone in her hand. She had watched Derek strangle his pregnant wife, had watched Becca collapse, had watched Derek step back and stare at what he had done, and now she listened to him lie to the emergency dispatcher. Mrs. Chen dialed 911 on her own phone. Her hands shook as she spoke. I need to report an assault. My neighbor, he strangled his wife. She's pregnant. I saw everything. The first sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer, coming for Becca, coming too late. Derek crouched beside Becca's body on the kitchen floor. He had arranged her carefully, positioned her at the bottom of the stairs that led to the second floor, creating the scene, making it look right. I'm so sorry, he whispered. But Becca did not know if he meant sorry for killing her or sorry for getting caught. You should have just kept quiet. Why couldn't you just keep quiet? Even now, it was her fault. Even as she lay dying on the floor, he was blaming her. The sirens grew louder, lights flashed through the kitchen window, red and blue and white, emergency colors, crisis colors, death colors. Heavy footsteps pounded up the front walkway. Fists hammered on the door. Ambulance, open up! Derek stood, smoothed his shirt, ran his fingers through his hair. The mask slid back into place. He opened the door. 2 paramedics rushed inside. A young woman with her hair in a tight bun. A young man with kind eyes and quick hands. The young man's name was Ethan Caldwell. He would change everything. What happened? Ethan asked as he dropped to his knees beside Becca. She fell, Derek said. His voice shook. Perfect. Down the stairs. I heard a crash. I found her like this. Ethan's hands moved over Becca's body, checking for a pulse, checking for breathing. His fingers touched her throat and stopped. He looked closer. Even in the dim light, he could see the marks. The bruising pattern, the unmistakable outline of fingers. Stairs, Ethan repeated. His eyes met Derek's. Something passed between them. Understanding. Suspicion. Yes, Derek said. The stairs. Ethan's partner, a woman named Rachel, was already setting up equipment. No pulse, she said. Her voice was calm but urgent. Starting compressions. Rachel's hands pressed down on Becca's chest, hard, rhythmic, trying to force her heart to beat, trying to force her lungs to breathe. Ethan positioned the oxygen mask over Becca's face. His eyes never left Derek. He had been a paramedic for 6 years. He had seen everything, and he knew what strangulation marks looked like. How long was she down? Ethan asked. Derek glanced at the clock. Maybe 2 minutes, 3 at most. Ethan looked at the bruising again, the petechial hemorrhaging in Becca's eyes, the marks on her throat that were already turning purple. These injuries, he said carefully, they're not consistent with a fall. She must have grabbed at her throat when she fell, Derek said quickly. Too quickly. Trying to catch herself. Rachel counted compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, come on. Becca felt something distant, pressure on her chest, pain, life trying to pull her back. But the darkness was so heavy, so complete. We need to transport now, Rachel said. Get the gurney. Ethan grabbed the radio from his belt. Dispatch. We have a 29-year-old female, approximately 34 weeks pregnant, no pulse, no respiration, CPR in progress, multiple traumas, possible domestic violence situation, requesting police backup. Derek's head snapped up. What? Domestic violence? I told you she fell. Sir, you need to step back, Ethan said. His voice was firm now, authoritative. That's my wife, Derek said. That's my child. And we're trying to save them both, Ethan replied. Step back. They lifted Becca onto the gurney. Rachel continued compressions as they moved. Ethan secured the oxygen. They wheeled her toward the ambulance. Derek followed close behind. Is she going to make it? Derek asked. He sounded worried. He sounded like a concerned husband. Will the baby be okay? Ethan did not answer. He was too busy watching Becca's face, too busy praying for a miracle. They loaded her into the ambulance. Derek tried to climb in after them. Family waits for transport, Ethan said. He moved to block Derek's path. I'm her husband, Derek insisted, and I'm the paramedic responsible for her care, Ethan replied. You can meet us at the hospital. For just a moment, Derek's mask slipped. His eyes went cold, hard, the same eyes that had watched Becca die on the kitchen floor. Then the mask returned. Of course, he said. I'll follow right behind you. The ambulance doors closed. Rachel kept up compressions. Ethan monitored the oxygen. Come on, Rebecca, he whispered. Fight. Your baby needs you to fight. Rachel felt something change beneath her hands. Wait, I've got something. Faint pulse, very faint. Ethan checked the monitor. A weak, irregular heartbeat appeared on the screen. We've got a pulse. She's coming back. Becca's body convulsed. Her chest heaved. Her eyes opened. The first thing she saw was Ethan's face above her. The second thing she saw was Derek's face through the ambulance window. Watching, waiting, terror flooded through her. Her body went rigid. The monitor shrieked. Her heart rate spiked. The baby inside her thrashed. Easy, Ethan said gently. You're safe. I've got you. But Becca's eyes were locked on the window. On Derek. On the man who had killed her. Ethan followed her gaze. Saw Derek. Saw the fear in Becca's eyes. Understood. He moved between Becca and the window, blocking her view, blocking Derek's view of her. You're safe, he repeated. This time it sounded like a promise. I won't let anyone hurt you. The ambulance pulled away from the house, sirens wailing, lights flashing, racing toward the hospital, racing toward what came next. Inside the ambulance, Becca's consciousness flickered like a dying bulb. On, off, present, gone. Each breath scraped through her damaged throat like broken glass. She tried to speak, to tell Ethan what Derek had done, But when she opened her mouth, only a raw, gasping sound emerged. "Don't try to talk," Ethan said gently. He adjusted the oxygen mask over her face. "Your throat is severely injured. You need to rest." Rest. As if she could rest, knowing Derek was following behind them. As if she could close her eyes without seeing his hands around her throat, without counting those seconds. 1 through 15. 16 through death. Rachel monitored the baby's heartbeat through a fetal Doppler pressed against Becca's swollen belly. The sound filled the small space, rapid, irregular, distressed. "Baby's tachycardic," Rachel reported. "Heart rate 180. She's in distress." She. They kept saying she, Becca's daughter, her baby girl who was supposed to be born in 2 months, who was supposed to have a nursery with yellow walls and white furniture, who was supposed to have a father who loved her, but her father had tried to kill them both. The ambulance hit a pothole. Becca's body jolted on the gurney. Pain exploded through her throat, through her chest where Rachel had done compressions, through her heart. "Almost there," Ethan said. He had kind eyes. Becca focused on those eyes, not on Derek's face in her memory, not on the kitchen floor, not on the counting, just these kind eyes that promised safety. But she had believed Derek's promises once too. The ambulance pulled up to the emergency room entrance. The back doors flew open. Hospital staff in blue scrubs rushed out. Dr. Claire Patterson led the team. She was 48 years old with silver threaded through her dark hair and the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who had seen everything. "What do we have?" Dr. Patterson asked as they wheeled Becca inside. 29-year-old female, Ethan reported, 34 weeks pregnant, found unresponsive. No pulse. CPR performed for approximately 4 minutes before we got a heartbeat back. Significant throat trauma. Possible strangulation. Husband claims she fell downstairs. Dr. Patterson's eyes sharpened. "Claims?" "Injuries not consistent with a fall," Ethan said. And the patient became extremely agitated when she saw her husband through the ambulance window. They pushed through the automatic doors into the bright lights of the emergency department. Fluorescent, harsh, exposing. Becca squinted against the glare. "Trauma room 3, Dr. Patterson ordered. "And get me an OB consult now. That baby's in trouble." They transferred Becca from the gurney to the hospital bed. Hands everywhere, cutting away her torn maternity dress, attaching monitors, starting IV lines. The sounds crashed over her, beeping machines, urgent voices, the squeak of wheels on linoleum. "Rebecca, I'm Dr. Patterson," the doctor said, leaning into Becca's field of vision. "You're at County General Hospital. You've been through something terrible, but you're alive, and we're going to take care of you and your baby. Can you hear me? Blink once for yes." Becca blinked. Once. "Good. Now listen carefully. I need to examine your injuries. Some of it will hurt, but I need you to stay as calm as possible for your baby. Can you do that?" Becca blinked again. Dr. Patterson's fingers probed gently at Becca's throat. Her expression darkened. Significant bruising, petechial hemorrhaging bilaterally, ligature marks, thyroid cartilage damage possible. She looked up at her nurse. "Get me photos, document everything, and call security. I want someone stationed outside this room." "Ma'am, there's a Detective Brennan here," a young nurse said from the doorway. "She says dispatch called about a possible domestic violence case." "Send her in," Dr. Patterson said, "and keep the husband out. I don't care what he says. He doesn't get in this room until I clear it." Detective Sarah Brennan entered the trauma room like she owned it. She was 41 with tired eyes that had seen too many women in hospital beds, too many accidents, too many falls downstairs. She approached Becca's bedside carefully. "Mrs. Morrison, I'm Detective Brennan. Your neighbor called 911. She saw what happened through her window. She saw your husband attack you. You're safe now. He can't get to you here." Tears leaked from the corners of Becca's eyes. Someone had seen. Someone knew. She was not alone with his lies. "I need you to answer some questions," Detective Brennan continued. "But Dr. Patterson tells me you can't speak yet. Can you write?" Dr. Patterson handed Becca a clipboard with paper and pen. Becca's hands shook so badly she could barely hold it. But she forced her fingers to grip the pen, forced herself to write. The letters came out shaky and uneven, like a child learning to write, or a woman learning to tell the truth. Derek did this. 3 words. The most important 3 words of her life. Detective Brennan took a photo of the note with her phone. Thank you, Rebecca. That's very brave. I need you to know that your husband is being detained in the waiting room. He's not going anywhere without talking to me first. A nurse burst into the room. Doctor, the husband is trying to leave. He says he needs to get some rest, that this has been traumatic for him. Detective Brennan's jaw tightened. Traumatic for him. She turned to Becca. I'll be right back. Don't worry, he's not going anywhere. The detective left. Dr. Patterson continued her examination. She pressed the stethoscope to Becca's belly, listened, frowned. The baby's heart rate is all over the place, she said. We need to get you upstairs for monitoring. But first, I need to ask you something. She lowered her voice, made sure only Becca could hear. Were you unconscious at any point? Did you stop breathing? Becca nodded. For how long? Becca held up 4 fingers, then mouthed the word minutes. Dr. Patterson's face went pale. 4 minutes without oxygen, and you're both alive. She squeezed Becca's hand. That's a miracle, honey. A genuine miracle. But Becca did not feel miraculous. She felt shattered, like the coffee pot on the kitchen floor, broken into 1,000 pieces that could never be put back together. Outside in the hallway, Detective Brennan caught up with Derek Morrison. He was headed toward the exit, car keys in his hand. Mr. Morrison, she called, I need to speak with you. Derek turned. His face was perfectly arranged. Concern, fear, grief. I really need to go home. Get a few hours of sleep. This has been incredibly stressful. I'm sure it has, Detective Brennan said. Her voice was flat. Your pregnant wife nearly dying. Very stressful. For you. You don't understand, Derek said. I've been trying to take care of her. The pregnancy has made her so emotional, unstable. She falls all the time. I warned her about those stairs. Mr. Morrison, I need you to come with me to the station to give a formal statement. Now, can't this wait until morning? Your wife was found with strangulation marks on her throat, petechial hemorrhaging, injuries completely inconsistent with falling downstairs. So no, it can't wait. Derek's mask slipped for just a second. His eyes went cold. Then he blinked and the concerned husband returned. This is absurd. I would never hurt Becca. I love her, bluff for her. I'm sure you do, Detective Brennan said. Now let's go have that chat. She led Derek down the hallway. He followed, still performing, still selling the story, but his hands kept clenching into fists. The same hands that had squeezed the life out of his wife an hour ago. Back in the trauma room, a new visitor arrived. Becca heard her before she saw her. Where is she? Where's my daughter? Margaret Hayes burst through the door like a force of nature. She was 52 years old with gray hair she never bothered to dye and a spine of pure steel. She had been a school teacher for 30 years. She had raised Becca alone after her husband died, and she had been waiting for this phone call for 5 years. Maggie rushed to Becca's bedside. Her face crumpled when she saw the marks on her daughter's throat. Oh, baby. Oh, my baby girl. Becca reached for her mother. Maggie took her hand and held it between both of hers. Her hands were warm, solid, real, safe. I brought your overnight bag, Maggie said. Her voice broke. I've had it packed for 3 years, in my closet, just in case this day came. Becca stared at her mother. 3 years. Her mother had known, had seen what Becca kept hidden, had prepared for this moment while Becca kept insisting everything was fine. I should have said something, Maggie whispered. I should have forced you to leave him, but you weren't ready to hear it, and I was so afraid that pushing you would make you choose him over me, over yourself. Tears ran down her face. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I waited for you to almost die before I could help you. Becca shook her head, squeezed her mother's hand, used her other hand to write on the clipboard. Not your fault, mine. No, Maggie said fiercely. This is Derek's fault. His alone. You were a victim, but you're alive, and we're going to make sure he pays for what he did. Dr. Patterson approached with a wheelchair. We need to get you upstairs, Rebecca. The OB team is waiting. Your mother can come with you. They transferred Becca to the wheelchair. Maggie pushed it herself, refused to let anyone else touch her daughter. As they moved through the hallways, Becca caught a glimpse through a window. The waiting room. Derek sitting with Detective Brennan. A lawyer had arrived. A woman in an expensive suit. His mother must have called already. The Morrison family closing ranks. Derek looked up. For just a moment, his eyes met Becca's through the glass. She saw nothing there. No love, no remorse, no recognition of what he had done. Just calculation, planning, how to fix this, how to win. Becca looked away first. She had looked away from the truth for 5 years, but she would not look away anymore. They reached the maternity ward. A team of nurses took over. More monitors, more equipment. They attached belts around Becca's belly to track the baby's heartbeat and her contractions. "You're having contractions," one of the nurses said gently. "Not strong ones yet, but the trauma has put you into early labor. We're going to try to stop it. Buy your baby a few more weeks, but we need to be prepared for anything." Becca nodded. She understood. Her daughter might arrive tonight, 2 months early, tiny, vulnerable, because of what Derek had done. Patterson returned with a social worker, a woman with kind eyes and a soft voice. "Rebecca, I'm Linda Morrison, no relation to your husband," she added quickly. "I'm here to help you understand your options." She pulled up a chair beside the bed, spoke quietly, respectfully. "What happened to you tonight is attempted murder. Detective Brennan is building a case. Your neighbor witnessed the attack. The medical evidence is overwhelming, but you need to know what comes next." Linda explained the process. Police investigation, possible arrest, restraining order, the long journey through the legal system. "Your husband will likely be released on bail within 48 hours, Linda said. "We'll get you an emergency protective order, but you need somewhere safe to stay, somewhere he can't find you." "She's coming home with me," Maggie said firmly. "I have a security system. I have a shotgun. I have 30 years of rage ready to protect my daughter." Despite everything, Becca almost smiled. Her mother, small and fierce and absolutely terrifying when protecting her children. "There's something else," Linda said carefully. "Your husband's family. They have resources, money, connections. This won't be easy." "Nothing worth doing is easy," Maggie replied, "but we're not backing down." The nurse monitoring the baby's heartbeat frowned. "Doctor, the heart rate is dropping again. We're down to 90. Dr. Patterson moved quickly, adjusted monitors, checked readings. "Get me an ultrasound, now." A portable machine appeared. They squirted cold gel on Becca's belly. The ultrasound wand moved across her skin. On the screen, Becca saw her daughter, her tiny, perfect daughter, heart flickering, fighting to keep beating. "The cord," Dr. Patterson said. "It's compressed. The baby's not getting enough oxygen." Becca's own damaged throat started to close with panic. Her baby couldn't breathe. Just like she couldn't breathe when Derek's hand squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. "Rebecca, look at me," Dr. Patterson commanded. "Your baby is strong. She survived 4 minutes of you being dead. She's a fighter, just like her mother. But we need to keep you calm. Can you do that?" Becca forced herself to breathe slowly through the oxygen mask, forced herself to relax. For her daughter. Everything for her daughter. The baby's heart rate stabilized, came back up to 110, then 120. Still not perfect, but alive. "That's better," Dr. Patterson said. "We're going to monitor you both very closely tonight. At the first sign of serious distress, we'll do an emergency C-section. Your baby will be premature, but viable. We have an excellent NICU here." The hours crawled by. Maggie never left Becca's side, held her hand, stroked her hair, whispered strength into her daughter's ear. Outside, Ethan Caldwell finished his shift, but he could not stop thinking about Rebecca Morrison, about the terror in her eyes when she saw her husband, about the marks on her throat. He called his father. Senator James Caldwell answered on the second ring. "Ethan, it's 2 in the morning. "I know, Dad, I'm sorry, but I need to talk to you about something." Ethan explained what he had seen, the attempted murder, the woman he had brought back to life, the monster of a husband. "You did the right thing reporting it," Senator Caldwell said. "But son, you need to stay out of this now. It's not your case anymore." "I know," Ethan said. "But Dad, she looked at me like I was her only hope. And I just kept thinking about Mom," Silence on the other end of the line. Ethan's mother had been in an abusive marriage before she met Senator Caldwell. She had barely escaped with her life. That was 30 years ago. But some wounds never fully healed. "What do you need?" Senator Caldwell asked finally. "Just keep an eye on the case. Make sure it doesn't disappear. Make sure she gets justice." "I'll make some calls in the morning," his father promised. Ethan hung up, sat in his car in the hospital parking lot, and made a decision that would change everything. He was not walking away from this, from her. Some people were worth saving, worth fighting for. Rebecca Morrison was one of them. Detective Sarah Brennan had been a cop for 19 years. She had learned to read people the way other people read books. And Derek Morrison was a bestseller of bullshit. He sat across from her in the interrogation room at 3 in the morning. His expensive lawyer, Patricia Vance, sat beside him like a hawk protecting her prey. Derek's hands rested calmly on the table. No fidgeting, no nervous energy, just practiced composure. "Let's go over this one more time," Detective Brennan said. "You claim your wife fell down the stairs." "That's correct," Derek replied. His voice was steady, reasonable. "I was in the home office working on client portfolios. I heard a crash. I found Becca at the bottom of the stairs. And the marks on her throat? She must have grabbed at herself when she fell. Panic. You know how people react in those situations." Detective Brennan laid a photo on the table. A close-up of Becca's throat, the finger-shaped bruises clear and distinct. These marks show 4 fingers on one side of her throat and a thumb on the other. Classic strangulation pattern. Derek barely glanced at the photo. "I don't know what to tell you. I found her like that." "Your neighbor saw you through the window. Saw you strangling your wife." Patricia Vance leaned forward. "My client won't be responding to hearsay. Mrs. Chen is 82 years old. Her eyesight is questionable at best." "She gave a very detailed statement," Detective Brennan said. "Down to the color of the dress your client's wife was wearing. The coffee pot that fell, the exact time, 9:47. Derek's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Mrs. Chen has always been overly interested in our lives. She watches through her window constantly. It's intrusive." "Or she's a concerned neighbor," Detective Brennan replied. "A witness to attempted murder." "Detective," Patricia interrupted, "unless you have actual evidence beyond the statement of an elderly woman with poor vision, I suggest we end this conversation. My client has been through a traumatic experience. His pregnant wife nearly died. He's exhausted. He needs rest." Detective Brennan wanted to reach across the table and shake them both. Derek was the one who needed rest? Not his wife who had been strangled to death and revived? Not the baby who was fighting for her life in the maternity ward? But she kept her voice level, professional. "Mr. Morrison, do you own a gun?" Derek blinked. The question caught him off guard. "Why is that relevant?" "Just answer the question." "No, I don't own a gun." "Do you have access to any weapons?" Patricia held up her hand. "My client is not answering that. This line of questioning is completely inappropriate." Detective Brennan tried another angle. "Mr. Morrison, how would you describe your marriage?" Derek's face softened. The performance began. "We were happy, very happy. Becca and I met 6 years ago at a charity event. It was love at first sight. We got married after a year. We were trying to start a family. When she got pregnant, I was over the moon. I've been so excited to be a father." "Has your wife ever accused you of abuse before?" "Never, because I've never laid a hand on her. I would never hurt Becca. I love her." Love. That word again. Derek kept saying it, but Detective Brennan had seen love. Real love. Love was her wife at home right now, worried about her safety. Love was respect and care and choosing the other person's well-being over your own convenience. This was not love. This was ownership. "What about the financial irregularities at your work?" Detective Brennan asked. "The money missing from client accounts?" Derek's composure cracked for just a second. Just long enough for Detective Brennan to see the truth underneath. "That's ridiculous," he said. "I'm a financial advisor with an impeccable record. I would never steal from clients. But your wife found evidence that you were. She confronted you tonight. That's why you tried to kill her." "This is completely inappropriate," Patricia said. She stood up. We're done here. Either charge my client or release him. Now. Detective Brennan wanted to charge him, wanted to lock him up and throw away the key. But she needed more time, needed the medical reports finalized, needed to interview Becca when she could speak, needed to build an airtight case. You're free to go, she said finally. For now, don't leave town. Don't go anywhere near your wife. I'll be in touch. Derek stood, straightened his shirt. I want to see Becca, to make sure she's okay. No, Detective Brennan said flatly. You're banned from the hospital. If you try to see her, you'll be arrested for violating the emergency protective order. Protective order? Warmbutter. Derek's mask slipped again. You can't do that. Already done. Judge signed it an hour ago. Patricia took Derek's arm, led him toward the door. Let's go. We'll fight this in court. They left. Detective Brennan sat alone in the interrogation room. She pulled out her phone, found the contact she needed, dialed. Brennan, a sleepy voice answered. It's 3 a.m. I know, Rodriguez, but I need you on this case. Nina Rodriguez was the best prosecutor in the district attorney's office. She specialized in domestic violence cases. She had a personal stake. Her own sister had been killed by an abusive boyfriend 10 years ago. Tell me, Nina said. She was wide awake now. Detective Brennan explained everything. The strangulation, the 4 minutes without a pulse, the witness, the evidence. Jesus, Nina breathed. She's alive? After 4 minutes? She's alive. The baby's alive. It's a miracle. Miracles make for good headlines, Nina said. But we need more than miracles. We need an airtight case. What do we have? Witness testimony from the neighbor, medical evidence, photos of injuries, the victim's written statement identifying her husband as the attacker, his body language during interrogation. My gut. Your gut won't hold up in court, Nina replied, but everything else might. I'll file charges first thing Monday morning. Attempted murder, assault with intent to kill. Let's bury this guy. His family has money, Detective Brennan warned. Connections. They hired Patricia Vance. She doesn't come cheap. I don't care if they hired the ghost of Clarence Darrow, Nina said. No one strangles a pregnant woman and walks free. Not on my watch. They hung up. Detective Brennan allowed herself a small smile. Nina Rodriguez was like a bulldog. Once she sank her teeth into a case, she never let go. Meanwhile, at the hospital, a different kind of performance was beginning. Vanessa Morrison swept into the emergency room like royalty entering a peasant's hovel. She was 58 years old with perfectly highlighted hair and a wardrobe that cost more than most people's cars. She had pearls at her throat, designer heels, a face frozen by expensive procedures into a permanent expression of mild disapproval. She approached the nurse's station. I'm here to see Rebecca Morrison. She's my daughter-in-law. The nurse looked up from her computer. I'm sorry, ma'am. Mrs. Morrison is in the maternity ward. Only immediate family allowed right now. I am immediate family, Vanessa said coldly. My son is her husband. Her baby is my grandchild. Mrs. Morrison has requested no visitors except her mother. Those are her wishes. Vanessa's lips thinned. That's absurd. She's being dramatic. Pregnancy hormones. I need to see her to make sure she's being properly cared for. I assure you she's receiving excellent care. Now, if you'll excuse me. Do you know who I am? Vanessa's voice rose. Several people in the waiting room turned to look. My husband is Peter Morrison. We're on the hospital board. We donated an entire wing last year. I suggest you let me through before I speak to the administration about your rudeness. The nurse remained calm. She had dealt with entitled relatives before. Ma'am, patient wishes supersede board donations. Mrs. Morrison has the right to refuse visitors. If you'd like to leave a message, I can pass it along. Vanessa's face flushed, but she forced a smile, dabbed at her eyes with a tissue she pulled from her designer purse. The performance for the waiting room. Please just tell her I'm here. Tell her we're all so worried. Tell her Derek is beside himself with grief. Grief, as if his wife dying was something that happened to him. The nurse nodded. I'll let her know you stopped by. Vanessa left. But she did not go far. She found Margaret Hayes in the cafeteria. Maggie had gone down to grab coffee. Needed 5 minutes away from the monitors and beeping and her daughter's bruised throat. Margaret, Vanessa said. She made Maggie's name sound like an insult. We need to talk. Maggie turned, set down her coffee. Mrs. Morrison, I didn't expect to see you here. Of course I'm here. My son's wife nearly died. My grandchild is in danger. This is a family crisis. It's a crime, Maggie corrected. Your son tried to murder my daughter. They stood in the nearly empty cafeteria. Two mothers, one defending a monster, one defending a victim. Vanessa stepped closer, lowered her voice. Let's be honest with each other. Your daughter has always been unstable, emotional. She trapped my son with this pregnancy. He was going to break up with her. The baby was a desperate attempt to keep him. Maggie's hands clenched into fists. My daughter was strangled by your son. She was dead for 4 minutes. A witness saw everything. A witness who can barely see, Vanessa said dismissively. Mrs. Chen is senile. Everyone knows that. The medical evidence doesn't lie. Medical evidence can be interpreted many ways. Vanessa's voice dropped even lower. Derek has a brilliant future, a career in finance, connections, opportunities. Your daughter is a nurse who quit her job. She has nothing. She is nothing. Why would you want to destroy my son's life over this? Maggie stared at the woman in front of her, at her perfect hair and expensive pearls, at her complete lack of humanity. Your son destroyed himself, Maggie said quietly, when he put his hands around my daughter's throat, when he squeezed the life out of her, when he tried to kill his own child. He did that, not Becca, him. Vanessa straightened her pearls. The gesture was unconscious, automatic, maintaining appearance even while defending attempted murder. We'll see what a jury thinks, Vanessa said. When they hear about Becca's instability, her history of depression, her desperate need to trap a successful man, we'll see who they believe. They'll believe the truth, Maggie replied. They'll believe the bruises and the medical reports and the neighbor who saw everything. They'll believe my daughter when she testifies about the years of abuse she endured. Abuse? Vanessa laughed. It was a cold, brittle sound. Derek gave her everything. A beautiful home, financial security, a lifestyle she never could have afforded on her own. And this is how she repays him? With false accusations? Maggie picked up her coffee, started to walk away. Then she turned back. You raised a monster, Mrs. Morrison, and you're protecting him instead of getting him help. I almost feel sorry for you, almost. She left Vanessa standing alone in the cafeteria, went back upstairs to her daughter, to the truth. In her hospital bed, Becca drifted in and out of sleep. The pain medication made everything fuzzy. But even in sleep, she felt Derek's hands on her throat, counted the seconds, saw his face above her, heard him lie to the police. She jerked awake. The monitors beeped faster. Her baby kicked. Active now, alive. Detective Brennan appeared in the doorway. Mrs. Morrison, I'm sorry to disturb you, but I need to take your formal statement when you're ready. Becca nodded, reached for the notepad beside her bed. Her throat hurt too much to speak, but she could write. She would write every word of the truth. Detective Brennan pulled up a chair. Take your time. Start from the beginning. Becca began to write. Her handwriting was shaky but legible. She wrote about the text messages she found, about confronting Derek, about his rage. She wrote about his hands on her throat, about counting seconds, about dying on the kitchen floor. She wrote about waking up to see his face in the ambulance, about the terror, about understanding that this was not an accident or a mistake. This was murder. Detective Brennan read as Becca wrote. Her expression hardened with each line. This is good, she said when Becca finally stopped. This is very good, but I need to prepare you for what comes next. Derek's family has hired expensive lawyers. They're going to try to discredit you. They'll say you're mentally unstable, that you made this up, that you hurt yourself. Becca wrote, I know. They'll dig into your past, look for anything they can use against you. Old medical records, therapy sessions, anything to make you look unreliable. I know. And it's going to be hard, really hard, testifying, facing him in court, reliving this. Becca wrote 3 more words, then underlined them twice. I'll do it. Detective Brennan smiled. It was the first real smile since she had entered the hospital. Okay then, let's get this bastard. At 4 in the morning, Derek Morrison sat in his lawyer's office. Patricia Vance spread documents across her desk, building the defense. The neighbor's testimony will be difficult to discredit, she said, but not impossible. We attack her credibility, her age, her eyesight, the distance from her window to yours. We create reasonable doubt. What about Becca? Derek asked. What if she testifies? We destroy her credibility first. Does she have any history of mental health issues? She saw a therapist after her father died, when she was 22. Perfect. We'll get those records. Paint her as unstable, prone to delusions. We'll say the pregnancy hormones made her paranoid, that she attacked you, that you were defending yourself. The medical evidence can be interpreted in different ways. Strangulation marks can be self-inflicted in extreme cases. We'll find an expert witness to testify to that. Derek leaned back in his chair. What are my chances? Patricia met his eyes. With my help, 60-40 in your favor. But Derek, I need you to understand something. This only works if you stick to the story. No wavering, no admissions, no showing remorse. I'm not sorry, Derek said. Becca brought this on herself. If she had just kept quiet about the money, none of this would have happened. Patricia's expression did not change. She had defended monsters before. Remember that certainty, she said. You'll need it in court. Back at the hospital, dawn broke. Soft pink light filtered through the windows. Becca lay awake, watching her baby's heartbeat on the monitor. Strong now, steady. She had died last night. For 4 minutes, she was gone. But something had pulled her back. Some force stronger than Derek's hands, stronger than his rage. Her daughter. Her daughter had kept her heart beating, had refused to let go. Becca put her hand on her belly, felt her baby move beneath her palm. We survived, she whispered. Her voice was raw, broken, but there. We're going to keep surviving, I promise you. I promise. Outside her room, Ethan Caldwell had returned. He was not officially on shift, but he could not stay away. He leaned against the wall, kept watch, made sure Derek Morrison did not come anywhere near this floor. Some promises were worth keeping. Some people were worth protecting. And Rebecca Morrison had just become his cause. 3 days after the attack, Becca was released from the hospital. Her throat was still damaged, her voice barely a whisper. But the baby was stable. No signs of immediate distress. No need for emergency delivery. Not yet. Maggie drove her daughter to her house across town, away from the suburban neighborhood where Derek still lived, away from the kitchen where Becca had died, away from everything that used to be normal. The house was a small ranch style with a fenced yard and roses growing along the front walk. Maggie had lived here for 25 years, had raised Becca here after her husband died, had kept one bedroom untouched, waiting for the day her daughter might need to come home. That day was today. They pulled into the driveway. Grace Bennett was already there waiting on the front porch. She had been Becca's best friend since their freshman year of college. They had been roommates, sorority sisters, bridesmaids at each other's weddings. Well, Becca had been Grace's bridesmaid. Grace had not been invited to Becca's wedding. Derek had insisted on a small ceremony, family only, no unnecessary people. That should have been the first warning sign. Grace rushed down the steps as soon as the car stopped, pulled open the passenger door, and burst into tears when she saw Becca's face. "Oh my God," Grace sobbed. "Oh, Becca. Oh, honey." Becca tried to smile, but her face hurt. Everything hurt. She let Grace help her out of the car, let her friend wrap her in a careful hug that avoided touching her throat. "I'm here," Grace whispered. "Whatever you need, I'm not leaving." They went inside. The house smelled like Maggie's cooking. Chicken soup simmering on the stove, fresh bread on the counter, comfort food, healing food. But Becca could not eat yet. Her throat was too damaged. Everything had to be soft. Liquid, small bites that hurt to swallow. Maggie had transformed her old bedroom back into a sanctuary. Fresh sheets on the bed, soft pillows, curtains drawn against the afternoon sun. A baby monitor on the nightstand, ready for when Amelia arrived. Amelia. They had chosen the name together, Becca and Derek, back when she thought they were building a family. Now the name felt tainted, claimed by a man who had tried to kill them both. But no, Becca refused to let him take this too. Amelia Grace Morrison. Her daughter would have her grandmother's name as a middle name. Grace for the friend who never abandoned her. Grace for the second chance she had been given. "I brought your laptop," Grace said. She set it on the dresser. "I thought you might want it, to work on grad school applications or whatever." Grad school? Becca had been planning to go back for her master's degree after the baby was born. Derek had discouraged it, said she should focus on being a mother, that a master's degree was unnecessary, that he made enough money for both of them. Another red flag she had ignored. Also, Grace continued, she lowered her voice, glanced at the door to make sure Maggie was not listening. "I need to show you something. I didn't want to say anything at the hospital, but I think it's important." She opened the laptop, logged into Becca's cloud storage account, pulled up a folder Becca had created months ago. "Remember when you were worried about Derek's behavior?" Grace asked. "You called me crying, said you thought you were going crazy, that he kept telling you things never happened when you knew they did." Becca remembered 6 months ago, maybe longer. The gaslighting had started slowly, small things. He would move her car keys and then swear he had not touched them. Would tell her about plans they supposedly made when she had no memory of agreeing. Would accuse her of saying things she never said. She had thought she was losing her mind. Pregnancy brain, hormones, something wrong with her. But one night after Derek had denied a particularly cruel comment he made about her weight, Becca had started documenting, writing down conversations, dates, times, what he said, what he did, creating a record she could refer to when he tried to rewrite history. The journal had grown. 2 years of entries, small cruelties that added up to something monstrous. "I found it yesterday," Grace said. "While I was at your house packing your clothes. Your laptop was in the bedroom." Derek didn't think to look at it. He was too busy covering his tracks downstairs. She opened the document, scrolled through entries, hundreds of them. March 15th. "Derek told me I looked fat in my dress. When I got upset, he said I was being too sensitive, that he was just trying to help me stay attractive for him." April 2nd. "Derek went through my phone, deleted Grace's number. Said she was a bad influence, that she was trying to break us up." May 19th. "Derek grabbed my arm during an argument, left bruises. When I pointed them out the next day, he said I must have bumped into something, that I was being dramatic." On and on, entry after entry, a catalog of abuse, a timeline of escalation. "The last entry," Grace said softly. She scrolled to the bottom. "Look at the last entry. It was dated the morning of the attack, the day Becca almost died. If something happens to me, Derek did it. I'm not crazy. I'm not making this up. He's been stealing money from his clients. I found the evidence. He knows I found it. I'm afraid of what he'll do. If you're reading this and I'm dead, please make sure he doesn't get away with it." Becca stared at her own words, written just hours before Derek's hands closed around her throat. She had known. Some part of her had understood the danger she was in. "This is evidence," Grace said, "documented abuse going back 2 years. Your own words, your own testimony. Detective Brennan needs to see this." Becca nodded, reached for the laptop, started scrolling through the entries, reading her own pain, recognizing the patterns she had tried so hard to explain away. Each entry was a moment she had chosen to stay, chosen to believe his apologies, chosen to think next time would be different, chosen love over safety. Except it was not love. Love did not leave bruises. Love did not isolate. Love did not lie. "I'll call Detective Brennan," Maggie said from the doorway. She had been listening. "This changes everything." An hour later, Detective Brennan arrived with Nina Rodriguez, the prosecutor. They sat around Maggie's kitchen table, Becca's laptop open between them. "This is gold," Nina said as she read through the entries. "Documented contemporary evidence. Written at the time, not after the fact. It establishes a pattern of abuse, control, escalation. It supports your testimony completely." Derek's lawyers will say she wrote it after the attack, Detective Brennan warned, that she backdated the entries to support a false narrative. The metadata proves otherwise, Grace said. She pulled up the document properties. See? Created date. Last modified dates. They match the dates in the entries. She can't fake that. Nina smiled. It was a predator's smile. A prosecutor who had just been handed the weapon she needed. This is admissible. Absolutely admissible. And it destroys his defense before he even starts. She looked at Becca. You wrote this knowing he might find it. Knowing it could make things worse. Why? Becca's damaged voice was barely audible. Because I thought I was going crazy. I needed proof for myself that it was real. It was real, Nina said firmly. Every word. And now everyone will know it. Detective Brennan pulled out her phone, showed Becca a photo. Do you recognize this man? It was Derek's business partner, Thomas Reed, mid-40s, expensive suit, practiced smile. Becca nodded. He came forward yesterday, Detective Brennan explained. Said Derek had been embezzling from client accounts for the past 18 months. Small amounts at first, then larger. Thomas confronted him last week. Derek promised to put the money back, to fix it before anyone found out. But Becca found out, Nina continued, which meant the secret was no longer safe, which meant Derek had a motive to silence her permanently. He was planning to run, Becca whispered. I found the plane ticket, one way to the Cayman Islands, booked for next Wednesday. Detective Brennan and Nina exchanged glances. Next Wednesday, Detective Brennan repeated. 4 days from now. He was going to leave before the baby was born, Becca said. Before anyone discovered the missing money. Before I could stop him. I was not the problem to solve. I was loose ends to tie up. The realization settled over the room like frost. Derek had not attacked his wife in a moment of rage. He had planned to kill her, to eliminate the witness, to disappear with his stolen money and start fresh somewhere new. This was not domestic violence that escalated. This was premeditated murder. We need to move fast, Nina said. If he's planning to run, we need him in custody. Now, before he realizes we know about the flight. Detective Brennan made calls, warrants, arrests, frozen assets, the machinery of justice grinding into motion. While they worked, Ethan Caldwell appeared at the door. He looked uncomfortable, out of place, a paramedic in a house full of lawyers and detectives. I'm sorry to intrude, he said. I just wanted to check on you. Make sure you were settling in okay. Becca tried to stand, winced, sat back down. Ethan crossed the room quickly. Don't get up. I didn't mean to disrupt. He stopped, took a breath. I couldn't stop thinking about you, about what happened. I needed to see with my own eyes that you were safe. It was forward, unprofessional maybe, but Becca found herself grateful. This man had brought her back to life, had stood between her and Derek in the ambulance, had made sure she was protected. Thank you, she whispered, for saving me. You saved yourself, Ethan replied. You came back. You fought. I just did my job. Your job doesn't usually include following up with patients at their mother's house, Grace pointed out. She was smiling, reading the situation, the way Ethan looked at Becca, the way Becca's posture relaxed slightly in his presence. Ethan had the grace to look embarrassed. You're right. This is inappropriate. I should go. Stay, Maggie said. She was already pouring coffee, making sandwiches, feeding the small army that had gathered to protect her daughter. You're part of this now, whether you plan to be or not. Ethan hesitated, then nodded, took a seat, accepted coffee. Detective Brennan ended her call. It's done. Arrest warrant issued for Derek Morrison. Charges of attempted murder, domestic violence, embezzlement, and flight risk. They're picking him up at his office in 20 minutes. What about his family? Maggie asked. His mother? We can't charge her with anything, but we're monitoring their accounts. If she tries to wire him money or help him flee, we'll know. Nina closed the laptop. Becca, I need you to understand what comes next. Derek will be arraigned. His lawyers will argue for bail. We'll fight it, but he might get out. If he does, you need to stay hidden. Stay safe. She won't be alone, Ethan said. The words came out more forcefully than he probably intended. I'll make sure of it. Everyone turned to look at him. I'm sorry, Ethan said. I just mean, My father is Senator James Caldwell. He has resources, security, connections. If you need protection, I can help arrange it. Why would I? Becca whispered. Why do you care so much? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft, pained. My mother was in an abusive relationship before she met my father. She barely got out alive. I grew up seeing the scars, the nightmares, the way certain sounds would make her flinch even 20 years later. I swore I would never stand by and let it happen to someone else if I could help. He looked directly at Becca. You're not just a patient to me. You're a survivor. And survivors deserve every resource we can give them. Becca felt tears prick her eyes. She had spent 5 years with a man who told her she was too sensitive, too emotional, too much. And here was a stranger willing to fight for her, to use his family's power to keep her safe. Thank you, she whispered. 20 minutes later, Derek Morrison was arrested in his office building. Security camera footage showed him trying to run when the police arrived, trying to escape out a side door, caught in the parking garage with a backpack full of cash and a fake passport. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. But as Nina Rodriguez had warned, evidence was only the beginning. Getting justice was something else entirely. The arraignment happened on a Monday morning. Becca watched it on a laptop from her mother's living room. She could not bring herself to go to the courthouse, to see Derek in person. Not yet. Nina Rodriguez stood before the judge in a sharp suit and sharper argument. Your Honor, the defendant is charged with attempted murder of his 7-month pregnant wife. He strangled her for approximately 4 minutes until she was clinically dead. Only the intervention of paramedics brought her back. Derek stood beside Patricia Vance. He wore an expensive suit, hair perfect, face arranged in an expression of wounded dignity. The performance continued. Furthermore, Nina continued, we have evidence the defendant was planning to flee the country. He had a one-way ticket to the Cayman Islands booked for this week. He was caught with $50,000 in cash and a false passport. He is an extreme flight risk and a danger to the community. We request remand without bail. Patricia Vance stood. Your Honor, my client is a respected financial advisor with deep ties to this community. He has no prior criminal record. The charges against him are based on circumstantial evidence and the unreliable testimony of an emotionally unstable witness. He is presumed innocent. Bail is appropriate. Emotionally unstable? Nina's voice rose. The victim's throat shows clear strangulation marks. Multiple witnesses, including trained paramedics, documented her injuries. A neighbor watched the attack through her window. This is not unreliable testimony. This is documented attempted murder. The judge looked at Derek, at his expensive suit and practiced remorse, then looked at the medical photos, at Becca's bruised throat, at the evidence that could not lie. Bail is set at $500,000, the judge said. Ankle monitor, no contact with the victim, surrender of passport, daily check-ins with pretrial services. In Maggie's living room, Becca felt the world tilt. $500,000. The Morrison family could pay that without blinking. Derek would be out within hours. He's going to get out, she whispered. Her voice broke. He tried to kill me, and he's going to walk free. Not free, Maggie said fiercely. She sat beside her daughter, took her hand, monitored, restricted, and will be ready. But ready for what? Derek, with an ankle monitor, could still hire someone to finish what he started, could still reach her through intermediaries, could still destroy her from a distance. Grace appeared with her phone. It's already starting. Look. She showed Becca the screen. Social media posts. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Derek's PR team had been busy. The posts painted a picture of a devoted husband, a successful businessman, a victim of false accusations by a mentally unstable wife. They included old photos. Becca at a party holding a wine glass. The caption, drinking while pregnant. The photo was from before she was pregnant, from 3 years ago. But the truth did not matter. The narrative was all that counted. Another post showed Becca's old therapist records, leaked somehow, describing her grief counseling after her father died when she was 22. The headline, History of Mental Health Issues Raises Questions. How did they get those? Becca asked. Medical records are confidential. Money, Nina said. She had called to check on Becca after the hearing. The Morrison family has connections. They're paying for everything Derek needs. The best lawyers, the best PR firm, the best chance of walking away from this. So what do? We build our case, we prepare for trial, and we don't let them control the narrative. But controlling the narrative was what the Morrisons did best. Within 24 hours, Derek was released on bail. The ankle monitor was attached. The restrictions were explained, and he returned to his parents' mansion to wait for trial. Vanessa Morrison held a press conference on the front lawn. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, spoke about her son's innocence, about the trauma of false accusations, about the damage being done to their family. "My son is a good man," she said to the cameras. "He loved his wife. He wanted nothing more than to be a father. And now he's being destroyed by lies, by a woman who wanted to trap him, who used a pregnancy to control him, who is now using false accusations to ruin his life." The reporters ate it up, asked softball questions, never challenged her version of events. Meanwhile, at Maggie's house, Becca sat in her old bedroom and watched her life become a media circus. Watched strangers debate whether she was telling the truth. Watched her pain become entertainment. Her phone buzzed constantly. Messages from people she barely knew. Some supportive, many cruel. "You lying bitch. You're going to destroy an innocent man. I hope your baby dies." That last one made her throw the phone across the room, made her curl up on the bed, made her wish she could disappear. Grace picked up the phone, blocked the number, then sat beside Becca and held her while she cried. "This is what they do," Grace said quietly. "They attack, they overwhelm, they make you want to give up. But you can't, because if you give up, they win, and Derek gets to hurt the next woman." "There might be others," Becca whispered. "The journal, my entries. I can't be the first one he hurt." "No," a new voice said from the doorway. "You're not." A woman stood there, mid-30s, professional clothes, nervous energy. Maggie was behind her, looking uncertain. "This is Jessica Morrison," Maggie said. "Derek's sister. She says she needs to talk to you." Becca sat up. Derek's sister. She had met Jessica maybe 3 times during her marriage. Derek kept his family separate, compartmentalized. Another control tactic she had not recognized until too late. Jessica stepped into the room, closed the door behind her. "I'm sorry to intrude, but I couldn't stay silent anymore. Not after what he did to you." She pulled a folder from her bag, set it on the bed. "My brother has done this before. In college. There was a girl, Emma Richardson. He dated her for 6 months. Then one night he attacked her, choked her. She filed charges." Becca opened the folder. Inside was a police report. Photos of a young woman with bruises around her throat that looked exactly like Becca's, and a non-disclosure agreement, signed by Emma Richardson in exchange for $200,000. "My parents paid her off," Jessica said. Her voice shook with anger. "Made the charges go away. Made her sign an NDA. Buried the whole thing. And I stayed quiet because I was scared. Because speaking up meant going against my family. But you survived. You're fighting back. And I can't let them do to you what they did to Emma." "Why are you helping me?" Becca asked. "Because I'm done protecting monsters," Jessica replied. "Derek is my brother. I love him. But he's sick and my parents enable him. They always have. Money fixes everything in their world. But money shouldn't fix attempted murder." She pulled out more documents. Emails between Vanessa and Peter Morrison discussing how to handle the Emma situation. Legal fees paid to make evidence disappear. Communication with the college administration to keep Derek from being expelled. "This is a pattern," Jessica said. "He escalates. My parents clean up with a mess. He does it again. You're not the first, but I hope you'll be the last." Becca looked at the evidence spread across her bed. Proof that Derek Morrison was a repeat offender, that his family had been covering up his violence for years. "Can I take this to the prosecutor?" Becca asked. "That's why I'm here," Jessica said. "I'll testify. I'll give them everything. I'm done being part of this family's lies." Nina Rodriguez nearly cried when she saw the evidence. "This changes everything. Pattern of behavior, prior acts, family cover-up. The jury will see exactly who Derek Morrison is." But Patricia Vance filed motions immediately, trying to suppress the evidence, arguing that the previous incident was irrelevant. that it was settled and sealed, that bringing it up would prejudice the jury. The legal battle became a war. Motions and counter-motions, hearings and arguments, weeks stretched into months. Becca's belly grew. Her due date approached. And Derek remained free, living in his parents' mansion, waiting for trial. The stress took its toll. Becca's blood pressure spiked. The baby showed signs of distress again. Paramedic Patterson ordered bed rest, monitoring, preparation for possible early delivery. You need to reduce stress, the doctor said, as if that were possible, as if she could simply choose not to be stressed, while her attempted murderer walked free. Ethan visited several times a week, always asking permission first, always respectful, but always there. He brought books, puzzles, distraction. He told stories about his work as a paramedic, about the people he had saved, the lives he had touched. "You're one of the success stories," he said one afternoon. They sat in Maggie's backyard, trees providing shade, late summer heat making everything slow and heavy. "Most people I save, I never see again. I always wonder if they're okay, if they're healing, but I get to see you heal, and it matters." "Why does it matter so much to you?" Becca asked. She had wondered this for weeks. Why a paramedic who barely knew her had become her protector. Ethan was quiet for a long time. "My mother died 2 years ago, cancer. Before she died, she told me she had one regret, that she didn't speak up sooner about her first marriage, about the abuse. She thought if she had been braver, she could have saved other women from the same man. She carried that guilt until the end." He looked at Becca. "I can't save my mother, but I can help you. And maybe that means her pain wasn't for nothing." Becca felt something crack open in her chest. Not love, not yet, but the beginning of trust. The recognition that some people were genuine, that not every man wanted to control or hurt her. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me as a person, not a victim or a case or a problem to fix, just a person." "You're more than just a person," Ethan said softly. "You're incredibly strong. Stronger than you know." That night, Becca had her first full night of sleep in months. No nightmares of Derek's hands. No phantom counting of seconds. Just rest. But the peace was temporary. The next morning, Detective Brennan called. "We have a problem. Derek's ankle monitor malfunctioned last night. For approximately 4 hours, we have no record of his location." Becca's blood went cold. "What does that mean?" "It could be a technical glitch, or it could mean he tampered with it. We're investigating." "Was he near my mother's house?" A pause. "We don't know, but I've arranged for patrol cars to drive by every hour, and I want you to consider staying somewhere else for a while, just until we sort this out." Senator Caldwell offered a solution: a safe house owned by a friend, secure, private, monitored. Becca moved there with her mother and Grace, surrounded by people who would protect her at all costs. But the fear remained. Derek was out there, free. And she was running from a man who had already tried to kill her once. The question was not if he would try again. The question was, when? At 35 weeks pregnant, Becca's body decided it had endured enough. The contractions started at 3 in the morning. Not the gentle practice contractions she had been having for weeks. Real contractions, hard, regular, demanding. Maggie called for an ambulance, called Dr. Patterson, called Ethan even though he was not on duty. Ethan arrived before the ambulance, still in sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair messy from sleep, but there, always there when she needed him. "How far apart?" he asked as he moved to check Becca's vitals. 5 minutes, Maggie reported. She had been timing them, writing everything down in that methodical teacher way she had. "We need to get you to the hospital," Ethan said. "The baby's coming early, but 35 weeks is viable. She'll be okay." But Becca was not thinking about viability. She was thinking about Derek, about his malfunctioning ankle monitor, about the restraining order that was just a piece of paper. "He'll know," she whispered. "Hospitals report births. He'll find out." "I won't let him near you," Ethan promised. "I'm officially going back on duty right now. I'll be with you the whole time." The ambulance arrived, different paramedics this time. Not the ones who had saved her life 3 months ago. But Ethan climbed in with her, held her hand, talked her through the contractions. Grace and Maggie followed in Maggie's car. They formed a convoy racing through the dark streets, racing toward birth, toward new life, toward an ending that was also a beginning. At the hospital, the maternity ward staff was ready. They had been briefed. A woman in labor whose attempted murderer was out on bail. Security was doubled. Extra staff assigned. No one without clearance would get near Becca's room. But labor did not care about security plans. Labor had its own timeline. The contractions intensified. Becca's water broke. Dr. Patterson checked her dilation. "You're at 6 centimeters, moving fast. This baby wants out." Grace held one of Becca's hands. Maggie held the other. Ethan stood nearby. Not quite family, but not quite outsider. Somewhere in between. "I can't do this," Becca gasped during a particularly brutal contraction. "I can't be a mother. I can't protect her." "Derek will." "Stop," Maggie said firmly. "You can do this. You've already survived the worst thing that could happen. Labor is nothing compared to that." But it was not nothing. It was pain layered on trauma, layered on fear. It was bringing new life into a world where Derek Morrison existed, where monsters walked free while their victims hid in safe houses. At 7 centimeters, Nina Rodriguez called. "Becca, I hate to do this now, but Derek's lawyers filed a motion. They're requesting that Derek be present at the birth, claiming his paternal rights." Becca's vitals spiked. The monitors screamed. Dr. Patterson rushed over. "What happened?" "Derek," Becca managed. "He wants to be here." "Absolutely not," Dr. Patterson said. She grabbed the phone from Nina. "This is Dr. Claire Patterson. I am Rebecca Morrison's attending physician. My patient is in active labor in a high-risk situation. Any stress could endanger both her and the baby. Derek Morrison is not family. He is the person who tried to kill her. If you allow him anywhere near this hospital, I will personally testify that your decision endangered both of my patients' lives." She hung up, looked at Becca. "He's not coming. I don't care what his lawyers say. My patient's safety comes first. Always." The contractions continued. 8 centimeters, 9 transition. The hardest part, the part where every woman thinks she cannot continue, where the body demands to quit. But Becca had quit nothing in the past 3 months. She had survived strangulation, survived clinical death, survived Derek's attempts to destroy her credibility. She would survive this too. At 10 centimeters, Dr. Patterson said the words every laboring woman waits to hear. "It's time to push." Becca pushed, and in her mind, she was not just pushing out a baby. She was pushing out 5 years of pain, 5 years of lies, 5 years of pretending Derek Morrison was anything other than a monster. She pushed for every woman who had been choked by someone who claimed to love her, for every woman whose bruises were hidden under long sleeves, for every woman who believed she was too sensitive, too emotional, too much. She pushed for Emma Richardson, the college girlfriend whose assault was buried under money and NDAs. She pushed for Jessica Morrison, who found the courage to betray her family to save a stranger. She pushed for her mother, who had watched her daughter disappear into an abusive marriage and could only wait for the inevitable call. And she pushed for herself, for the Becca who had died on a kitchen floor and come back, for the Becca who was fighting for justice, for the Becca who would teach her daughter that survival was not weakness, that choosing yourself was not selfish, that saying no was not cruel. "I see the head," Dr. Patterson called. "One more push. Come on, Becca. Bring your daughter into the world." One more push, one more impossible thing, one more moment of pain that led to something better. Amelia Grace Morrison was born at 7:22 in the morning, 5 pounds, 4 ounces, tiny, perfect, screaming with healthy lungs that announced her existence to the world. They placed her on Becca's chest, skin to skin, mother and daughter, survivors both. Becca looked down at her baby, at her daughter who had refused to die, who had kicked frantically when Derek's hands squeezed, who had somehow kept both their hearts beating when death seemed certain. "You saved me," Becca whispered. That night, "You saved me." Amelia's tiny hand wrapped around Becca's finger, held on tight, as if to say, "And you saved me. Now we save each other." Grace was crying, Maggie was crying, Ethan was crying. Even Dr. Patterson had tears in her eyes. "She's beautiful," Dr. Patterson said, "and healthy, a fighter." just like her mom. They moved Becca to a recovery room, settled Amelia in a bassinet beside her bed, security posted outside the door. No visitors without explicit approval. But Derek knew, of course he knew, hospitals reported births, public records. His daughter had been born and he wanted to meet her. At 9 a.m., Patricia Vance arrived at the hospital with a court order. Derek had a right to meet his child. Paternal rights. Legal standing. Dr. Patterson stood in front of Becca's door like a guard dog. My patient is recovering from a traumatic birth. She is not receiving any visitors today. This is a court order, Patricia said. She held up the paper. Signed by a judge, Derek Morrison has a right to see his daughter. Derek Morrison is an attempted murderer out on bail. He has no rights in my hospital. He has not been convicted of anything. He is presumed innocent. And my patient is presumed to be telling the truth about the man who tried to kill her. Now leave before I call security. Patricia left, but she promised she would be back. With more lawyers, with more court orders, with everything the Morrison family money could buy. Inside the recovery room, Becca held Amelia and tried not to panic. She had done it, brought her daughter safely into the world. But now what? How could she protect this tiny person from a father who saw her as property? As leverage? As a way to control Becca forever? We need to file for emergency custody, Nina said. She had rushed over as soon as she heard about Patricia's visit. Full custody to you. Supervised visitation only for Derek. We argue danger to the child. Will it work? I don't know, but we have to try. That afternoon, while Becca recovered and bonded with Amelia, Derek Morrison appeared on the evening news. Another performance. Another manipulation of the media. He stood on the courthouse steps, Patricia beside him, perfectly dressed, perfectly composed. A man wronged by the system. My daughter was born today, he said to the cameras. His voice broke in just the right places. My little girl, and I'm not allowed to meet her. I'm not allowed to hold her. Because my wife has made false accusations that have destroyed my life. I am fighting for my rights. For my daughter's rights. To know her father. To have a complete family. The reporters ate it up. Asked if he planned to fight for custody. Asked if he believed Becca was fit to be a mother. Asked if he thought the baby was even his. That last question Becca watched later on her phone. Watched Derek's face as he considered. As he calculated. As he chose his words carefully. I believe Amelia is my daughter, he said. But given everything that has happened, I think a paternity test would be appropriate, just to be certain. Becca threw the phone across the room. Of course he would do this. Question paternity, plant doubt, make her defend herself from another angle. Grace picked up the phone. He's flailing. He knows his case is weak, so he's creating chaos, trying to exhaust you, trying to make you quit. I won't quit, Becca said. Her voice was still damaged from the strangulation. But the words came out strong. I'll do the paternity test. I'll fight for custody. I'll do whatever it takes, because Amelia deserves better than him. She deserves you, Ethan said from the doorway. He had a security system under his arm. Senator Caldwell sent this. For your mother's house. Cameras, alarms, motion sensors, the works. We're installing it today. Why is your father helping me? Becca asked. He doesn't even know me. Ethan set down the security system, approached the bed carefully, looked at Amelia sleeping in her mother's arms. My father knows Derek's father. They served together years ago. He knows what kind of man Peter Morrison is. What kind of family raises a son who strangles his pregnant wife? And he wants to make sure history doesn't repeat itself. What do you mean? Peter Morrison beat his first wife, before Vanessa. She left him and disappeared. Took a settlement and signed an NDA. He remarried Vanessa 6 months later. Started fresh. Built his empire. Raised his son to believe that money fixes everything. That women are disposable. That violence is just a problem that can be paid away. Becca looked down at Amelia, at her daughter who was half Derek, half monster. What if she grows up to be like him? She won't, Maggie said firmly, because she has you, because you're teaching her what real strength looks like, what real love looks like. She'll grow up knowing that survival is something to be proud of. That night, Becca checked the locks on her hospital room door 17 times, between feeding Amelia, between trying to sleep, between watching the security camera footage that showed the hallway outside her room. Empty hallway, safe hallway, but she could not stop checking, could not stop counting. 17 times, the same way she counted the seconds when Derek choked her, the same arithmetic of trauma. Later, when a nurse came to check on her, the nurse noticed. "Are you okay, honey? You seem anxious." "I'm fine," Becca lied, "just being careful." But she was not fine. She was trapped between the old life where Derek controlled everything and the new life where she was free, but constantly afraid. Between the woman who died on the kitchen floor and the woman who became a mother. Between victim and survivor. She did not know which one she was yet. Maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe she was just a woman trying to keep her daughter safe in a world that protected men like Derek Morrison more than women like her. But she was trying. And for now, that had to be enough. Senator James Caldwell arrived at Maggie's house on a Tuesday afternoon. He drove himself, no staff or security detail, just a man in his 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes coming to offer help. Maggie met him at the door. She had dressed up slightly, nervous about a senator visiting her modest home. But Senator Caldwell smiled warmly and shook her hand like she was an old friend. "Thank you for seeing me, Mrs. Hayes. I know this is an intrusion." "Any father of Ethan's is welcome here," Maggie replied. "That boy saved my daughter's life." "He told me?" Senator Caldwell followed Maggie inside. "He also told me he can't stop thinking about your daughter's case, about making sure justice is served." They sat in the living room. Becca emerged from the bedroom where she had been feeding Amelia. The baby was 3 weeks old now. Still tiny, still perfect, still a reminder of everything at stake. "Senator Caldwell," Becca said. Her voice was stronger now, the damage from the strangulation healing slowly. "Your son has been very kind. More than kind. Call me James, please." He gestured for her to sit. "And Ethan is following his heart. He always has, sometimes to his detriment. But in this case, I think he's right to care." He pulled out a folder from his briefcase, set it on the coffee table. "I need to tell you something about Derek Morrison's family. Something that might help your case." Becca opened the folder. Inside were old newspaper clippings, articles from 30 years ago, a scandal involving Peter Morrison, Derek's father. "Peter and I served together in the Army," Senator Caldwell explained. "We were young, stationed overseas. Peter had a wife back home, Janet, sweet woman, gentle. She came to visit him during our leave." He pointed to one of the articles. A brief mention of a domestic disturbance at an Army base. Peter beat her, badly, sent her to the hospital. The Army wanted to court-martial him, but his father, Derek's grandfather, had connections, money, influence. They made it disappear. Janet took a settlement and vanished. I never saw her again. "And Peter just moved on?" Becca asked. 6 months later, he met Vanessa. She came from money. Her family had the connections Peter needed to build his business. They married quickly, had Derek and Jessica, built a life that looked perfect from the outside. Senator Caldwell leaned forward. "But I watched Peter over the years, watched how he controlled Vanessa, how he isolated her from her own family, how their perfect marriage was just another performance. And I thought about Janet, about how no one helped her, about how the system protected him instead of her." "Why are you telling me this?" Becca whispered. "Because history repeats itself when we let it. Because Derek learned from his father that women are possessions, that violence is acceptable if you have enough money to cover it up. And because I have spent 30 years regretting that I didn't speak up for Janet when I had the chance." He looked at Becca directly. "I can't bring Janet back, can't undo the past, but I can help you. I have connections in the legal system, in the media, in places where the Morrison family thinks they're untouchable. And I'm willing to use every single one of them to make sure Derek doesn't escape justice." "Why?" Becca asked. "You barely know me." Senator Caldwell smiled sadly. "You remind me of my wife. She was in an abusive relationship before we met, barely escaped with her life. She spent 30 years helping other women get out, get safe, get justice. She passed away 2 years ago. But before she died, she made me promise to continue her work, to stand up for women when they couldn't stand up for themselves." He pulled out a photo from his wallet, a beautiful woman with kind eyes. This is Sarah, my wife. She would have loved you, would have fought for you with everything she had. Becca stared at the photo, at the woman who had survived, who had turned her pain into purpose. What do I need to do? Keep fighting, Senator Caldwell said. Keep telling your truth. Let Nina build the case. And when Derek's family tries to use their power to crush you, remember that they're not the only ones with power. Good people have power too. We just have to choose to use it. Before he left, Senator Caldwell gave Becca his private cell phone number. If you need anything, anything at all, you call me directly. Day or night, I mean that. After he left, Becca sat holding the photo of Sarah Caldwell, a stranger who had become a patron saint, a woman who understood. That evening, another unexpected visitor arrived. This time, Jessica Morrison appeared at the door with a rolling suitcase and tears streaming down her face. I can't go back, she said when Maggie answered. My parents disowned me for testifying against Derek, for betraying the family. They said I was dead to them. Maggie pulled her inside, gave her tissues, made tea, let her cry. I knew they would react badly, Jessica said when she could speak again, but I didn't expect them to cut me off completely. They froze my bank accounts, took my car, changed the locks on the house I was living in. Their house, everything I had came from them, and now I have nothing. You have your integrity, Maggie said firmly. That's worth more than their money. Is it? Jessica looked around the modest living room. I've never had to work for anything. Never had to budget or struggle. I don't even know how to be poor. You're not poor, Becca said from the doorway. Amelia was asleep on her shoulder. You're free. There's a difference. Jessica looked at her sister-in-law, at the woman her brother had tried to murder. I'm so sorry for everything, for not speaking up sooner, for the years I stayed silent while Derek hurt people, for my parents and their money and their complete lack of humanity. You spoke up when it mattered most, Becca replied. That takes courage. More courage than I had for 5 years. Can I? Jessica hesitated. Can I see her? Amelia. Becca crossed the room, sat beside Jessica on the couch, turned so Jessica could see the baby's face. She's beautiful. Despite everything, despite her father, she's perfect. She has Derek's nose, Jessica observed, then immediately looked stricken. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It's okay, Becca said. She's half him, whether I like it or not, but she's also half me, and all hers. She gets to decide who she becomes. Jessica reached out tentatively, touched Amelia's tiny hand. The baby's fingers curled instinctively around Jessica's thumb. Hello, little one. I'm your aunt. Your excommunicated, homeless, completely lost aunt. You're not homeless, Maggie said. You're staying here. Guest room is yours as long as you need it. I can't impose. You're not imposing. You're family now, the family we choose, not the family we're stuck with. Jessica started crying again. I don't deserve your kindness. Everyone deserves kindness, Becca said. That's what I'm learning. Kindness isn't earned, it's given, freely, without conditions. Over the following days, Jessica settled into Maggie's house. She got a job at a coffee shop, entry level, minimum wage. Came home exhausted with stories about difficult customers and sore feet. This is terrible, she said one evening. How do people do this? Most people don't have a choice, Grace pointed out. She was sitting at the kitchen table, helping Becca fill out forms for emergency custody. Most people work like this their whole lives and never get the opportunities you've had. I know, Jessica said quietly. I'm sorry, I'm spoiled. I've been spoiled my whole life. But you're learning, Maggie said, and that's something. One evening, as Becca nursed Amelia in the rocking chair by the window, she watched Jessica and Grace laughing together in the kitchen. Watched her mother teaching Jessica how to make spaghetti sauce from scratch. Watched this makeshift family that had formed from tragedy. This is what Derek tried to take from me, Becca whispered to her daughter. Connection, community, people who see me as more than a possession. But he failed. We survived, and we built something better. Amelia made a small sound, possibly agreement, possibly just gas. But Becca chose to believe it was solidarity. That night, Ethan stopped by after his shift. He had been coming regularly now, bringing coffee, bringing news, bringing himself. He held Amelia while Becca ate dinner. The baby looked impossibly small in his hands, but he held her confidently, comfortably, like he had done this before. "You're good with her," Becca observed. "I have 3 nieces," Ethan explained. "I've had lots of practice." He looked down at Amelia, at her serious expression, at the way she studied his face like she was memorizing it. "She's lucky to have you. You know that, right?" "Some days I don't feel very lucky," Becca admitted. "Some days I feel like I'm barely holding it together. Like one more thing will break me completely. But you're still here, still fighting, still being the mother she needs. That's not barely holding together, that's strength." "It doesn't feel like strength. It feels like stubbornness. Like I'm too stupid to give up even when giving up would be easier." "Good," Ethan said. "Be stubborn. Be too stupid to give up. Because Derek is counting on you giving up. His whole defense relies on you being too tired or too scared to keep fighting. Don't give him what he wants." Becca looked at this man who had become so important in her life, this paramedic who saved her, this senator's son who used his privilege to protect instead of exploit, this person who saw her as a whole person instead of a collection of trauma. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." "I haven't done anything special," Ethan replied. "You saw me when I was dead and chose to bring me back. You stood between me and Derek. You convinced your father to help. You show up every day, even when you don't have to. That's everything." Ethan smiled. "Well, when you put it that way." They sat together in comfortable silence. Amelia fell asleep in Ethan's arms. Outside, the sun set. The security system Ethan had installed blinked green lights. All clear, all safe for now. At 35 weeks postpartum, Becca's body started healing in visible ways. The bruises faded from her throat. Her voice grew stronger. She could swallow without pain. The physical evidence of Derek's violence was disappearing, but the psychological evidence remained. The panic attacks, the hypervigilance, the inability to sleep without checking locks, the way she flinched at unexpected sounds. Her therapist, Dr. Allison Bryant, called it post-traumatic stress disorder, gave it a clinical name, explained that her brain was still protecting her from a threat that had already passed. "The trauma lives in your body," Dr. Bryant explained during their sessions. "Your body remembers even when your mind tries to move forward. Healing isn't linear. Some days will be better than others." Today was not a better day. It started when Becca received notification that Derek's lawyers had filed new motions, requesting parental rights, requesting unsupervised visitation, requesting joint custody. The audacity of it stole her breath. The man who tried to kill her wanted to take her daughter on weekends, wanted to be alone with the baby he had almost prevented from being born. "They're fishing," Nina explained during an emergency conference call. "They know they'll lose, but they're filing anyway to exhaust you, to drain your resources, to make you feel like giving up would be easier than fighting." "It would be easier," Becca admitted, "but I won't." That night at 2 in the morning, Amelia started crying. Becca got up to feed her, walked through the dark house to the kitchen, turned on the light, and saw a figure standing in the backyard. Her heart stopped, the same complete terror as when Derek's hands closed around her throat, the same certainty of danger. She grabbed her phone, dialed 911 with shaking hands. "Someone's outside my house, in the backyard." The dispatcher asked questions. Location, description of the intruder, whether she felt she was in immediate danger. "Yes," Becca whispered. "He found me. He's going to finish what he started." Police arrived within 4 minutes, searched the yard, found nothing. No footprints, no signs of forced entry, no evidence anyone had been there. "Are you sure you saw someone?" the officer asked gently. "I saw someone," Becca insisted. "A person, standing by the back fence." "Could it have been a shadow, a tree branch? Sometimes in the dark." "I know what I saw." But did she? As the adrenaline faded, doubt crept in. The mind plays tricks at 2 in the morning. Shadows become threats. Fear creates danger where none exists. Unless the danger was real. Unless Derek had hired someone. Unless the system designed to protect her had failed again. She did not sleep the rest of the night. sat in the rocking chair with Amelia, kept watch, counted seconds the way she counted them while dying. In the morning, Ethan arrived to find her exhausted and shaking. What happened? Becca explained. The figure in the backyard. The police finding nothing. The possibility she was losing her mind. You're not losing your mind, Ethan said firmly. You're traumatized. There's a difference. Is there? Because I'm starting to wonder. Derek's lawyers are already calling me unstable, saying I'm paranoid. What if they're right? They're not right. You're a woman who was almost murdered, adjusting to life after trauma. Being hypervigilant isn't crazy, it's adaptive. It's your brain trying to keep you safe. But what if I really am seeing things that aren't there? What if I'm becoming the person they say I am? Ethan took her hands, looked directly into her eyes. Listen to me. You are not crazy. You are not unstable. You are a survivor of violence coping with the aftermath. Do not let his lawyers rewrite your reality. They're the ones lying, not you. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it grew. A week later, Becca's stress triggered early labor warning signs. Contractions that were not quite contractions. Cramping that sent her to the emergency room at midnight. Dr. Patterson examined her, ran tests, determined it was false labor brought on by stress. Your body is exhausted, the doctor said bluntly, physically and emotionally. You had a baby 5 weeks ago. You're barely healed. You're fighting a legal battle. You're dealing with PTSD. Something has to give. I can't give anything, Becca said. If I stop fighting, Derek wins. If I show weakness, his lawyers use it against me. If I'm not perfect, they'll take Amelia. No one is asking you to be perfect, but you need to take care of yourself. You can't protect Amelia if you collapse. But collapsing felt inevitable, like trying to hold back an avalanche with bare hands. The breaking point came on a Thursday afternoon. Becca was at the courthouse for a hearing about Derek's visitation rights. She had to be there in person, had to face him. She walked into the courtroom with Nina Rodriguez beside her, Grace and Maggie in the row behind for support, and Derek sitting at the defendant's table with Patricia Vance, looking healthy, looking normal, looking like he had not tried to murder his pregnant wife 4 months ago. He turned when Becca entered, made eye contact, smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was a reminder, a message. I'm still here. I'm not going away. You can't escape me. Becca's legs went weak. The room started spinning. She grabbed the table to steady herself. Breathe, Nina whispered. You're okay. He can't hurt you here. But he was hurting her, just by existing, just by smiling, just by winning small legal victories that brought him closer to her daughter. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The hearing began. Patricia Vance argued eloquently for Derek's rights. My client has not been convicted of any crime. He is presumed innocent. He has a constitutional right to a relationship with his daughter. Denying him supervised visitation based solely on unproven allegations is unjust, Nina countered. The evidence is overwhelming. Medical testimony, witness statements, the defendant's own actions. He tried to murder this woman and her unborn child. He should not be rewarded with access to the baby he tried to prevent from being born. The judge listened, asked questions, reviewed documents, and ruled. I'm ordering supervised visitation. 2 hours per week in a neutral location with a social worker present. Mr. Morrison may see his daughter under these conditions. Becca heard the words through a fog. Supervised visitation. Derek would see Amelia, would hold her, would have access to her daughter. She stood on shaking legs, felt the room tilt, felt everything she had been holding together start to fracture. Becca, Nina's voice came from far away. Becca, stay with me. But Becca was not there anymore. She was back in the kitchen, Derek's hands on her throat, counting seconds, dying on the floor. She collapsed, hit the floor hard. Someone screamed. Ethan was suddenly there, checking her pulse, calling her name. Becca, Rebecca, come back. You're safe. You're in at the courthouse. You're safe. She opened her eyes, found his face above her. Kind eyes, steady voice, anchor in the storm. I can't do this, she whispered. I can't keep fighting. I can't watch him win piece by piece. I can't hand my daughter over to supervise visits and pretend it's justice. You don't have to pretend, Ethan said softly. This isn't justice. This is the system failing you. Again, but you're not alone. And you don't have to be okay. You just have to keep breathing. They got her out of the courthouse, into Maggie's car, home to the house with the security system and the locks she checked 17 times a night. Dr. Bryant made an emergency house call, sat with Becca in her bedroom. Let her cry, let her rage, let her admit the truth she had been avoiding. I'm not okay, Becca said through tears. I'm really not okay, and I don't know if I'll ever be okay again. Okay is overrated, Dr. Bryant replied. What you're experiencing is normal. What happened to you was abnormal. Your reaction is proportional to the trauma. You're not broken, you're injured, and injuries take time to heal. But what if I don't heal before the trial? What if I fall apart on the stand? What if Derek's lawyers are right and I really am unstable? Stop, Dr. Bryant said firmly. You're not unstable. You're a woman processing attempted murder. The fact that you're still functioning at all is remarkable. Most people couldn't do what you're doing. Going to therapy, caring for a newborn, fighting in court. That's not instability. That's incredible strength. Becca wanted to believe her, but doubt was easier. Doubt felt true. That night, Ethan stayed late, helped with Amelia while Becca tried to rest. Grace made dinner. Jessica did laundry. Maggie coordinated everything like the general she was. This makeshift family, this chosen circle, this evidence that Derek had not taken everything. Around midnight, when everyone else was asleep, Becca found Ethan in the kitchen. He was researching something on his laptop. Legal precedents, domestic violence cases, looking for anything that might help. You don't have to do this, Becca said from the doorway. You've already done more than anyone could ask. Ethan looked up. I know I don't have to. I want to. Why? Really, why do you care so much? He closed the laptop, considered his answer. When I pulled up to your house that night, I thought you were already dead. The dispatcher said no pulse, no breathing. I've been a paramedic for 6 years. I've seen dead people, and I thought you were one more. He paused. But then I saw the marks on your throat, and I knew someone had done this to you. And if I could bring you back, if I could give you a chance to tell your story, maybe it would matter. Maybe one life saved would mean something. It means something to me, Becca whispered. You mean something to me. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication, with the beginning of something neither of them had planned. I can't, Becca started. I'm not ready for... I know, Ethan interrupted gently. You just escaped an abusive marriage. You're healing. You're fighting for your daughter. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just being here, however you need me to be. What if I need you to be more than here? The words came out before Becca could stop them. What if I need you to be someone who sees me as more than a victim? Someone who believes I'm worth fighting for. You are worth fighting for, Ethan said. That's why I'm still here. They stood in the kitchen in the middle of the night, two people who had met in the worst possible moment, who had chosen to keep meeting, who were building something new from the ruins of something terrible. I'm broken, Becca said. You're healing, Ethan corrected. There's a difference. And for the first time in months, Becca believed him. The trial began on a cold morning in November, 6 months after Derek Morrison strangled his pregnant wife to death. 6 months after Becca Morrison came back to life. The courthouse was packed. Media trucks lined the street. Reporters shoved microphones at anyone entering the building. The case had become national news, a cautionary tale, a rallying cry, a referendum on how the justice system treats domestic violence. Becca sat in the witness room with Nina Rodriguez. Maggie held Amelia in the hallway. Grace and Jessica waited nearby. Ethan had taken time off work to be there. Even Senator Caldwell had come, sitting quietly in the gallery. Are you ready? Nina asked. Becca's throat was dry. Her hands shook, but she nodded. I'm ready. She had spent months preparing for this, reviewing her testimony with Nina, working with Dr. Bryant to manage her anxiety, practicing how to stay calm when Derek's lawyers attacked her credibility. But nothing could truly prepare her for walking into that courtroom, for seeing Derek at the defense table, for sitting in the witness chair and swearing to tell the truth, as if the truth was simple, as if she could condense 5 years of abuse, 4 minutes of death, and 6 months of recovery into coherent testimony. Nina approached the witness stand. Please state your name for the record. Rebecca Ann Morrison. And how do you know the defendant? He's my husband, estranged husband. Can you describe your relationship with Derek Morrison? Becca took a breath, began the story she had told in therapy, in police statements, in her secret journal. But this time it was official, public, permanent. We met 6 years ago at a charity event. He was charming, successful. He pursued me. Within 3 months we were engaged, married a year later. And how was your marriage? At first it seemed perfect. Derek was attentive, generous, supportive. But gradually things changed. He started criticizing my appearance, my friends, my choices. He told me I was too sensitive, too emotional. He isolated me from my support system. Did his behavior ever become physical? Yes, it started small, grabbing my arm too hard during arguments, pushing me if I tried to walk away. It escalated over time. Did you ever report this to police? No, I was embarrassed. I thought it was my fault, that if I could just be better, he would stop. Nina walked Becca through the timeline, the escalating control, the financial manipulation, the gaslighting that made her question her own reality. Then you got pregnant. Yes, 7 months into the pregnancy, I found evidence that Derek was embezzling from his clients. I confronted him about it. And what happened next? This was it, the moment, the testimony that mattered most. He attacked me in our kitchen. He put his hands around my throat and squeezed. I couldn't breathe. I tried to fight him off, but he was too strong. I remember counting the seconds, knowing I was dying. Her voice remained steady, clinical, the way Nina had coached her. Facts without excessive emotion. Let the story speak for itself. How long did he strangle you? 4 minutes, according to the paramedics. I lost consciousness, stopped breathing. My heart stopped. I was clinically dead. And then what happened? Paramedics arrived. Ethan Caldwell performed CPR. He brought me back. I woke up in the ambulance. Did you see Derek when you woke up? Yes, he was watching through the ambulance window. When I saw him, I panicked. My heart rate spiked. I was terrified. Nina showed photos to the jury. Becca's throat with finger-shaped bruises, her eyes with petechial hemorrhaging. Medical reports documenting the strangulation. These injuries, could they have been self-inflicted? No. Could they have been from a fall down stairs as the defendant claimed? No, the medical evidence is clear. These are strangulation marks. Patricia Vance stood for cross-examination. She smiled at Becca. It was not a kind smile. Mrs. Morrison, you've had quite an ordeal. I imagine the pregnancy hormones made everything even more difficult. Objection, Nina called. Relevance. Sustained, the judge said. Patricia shifted tactics. You were seeing a therapist before this incident, correct? Yes, years before, after my father died. Depression, grief counseling for normal grief after a parent's death. But you were on medication, antidepressants. 7 years ago, for 6 months. It's not relevant to what Derek did. Isn't it possible that your mental health history made you misinterpret his actions? No, I didn't misinterpret being strangled to death. The jury shifted. Several members looked uncomfortable with Patricia's line of questioning. You kept a journal, correct? Documenting alleged abuse? Yes. Isn't it convenient that you wrote down everything? Almost as if you were building a case? I wrote it down because I thought I was going crazy. Because Derek kept telling me things didn't happen when I knew they did. I needed proof for myself. Patricia produced printouts. According to this entry from May, you wrote that Derek grabbed your arm. But the next day, you went to dinner with his parents. You smiled. You laughed. You acted like nothing was wrong. If you were really being abused, wouldn't you have shown signs? Becca met Patricia's eyes. That's what abuse victims do. We hide it. We pretend. We make excuses. Because we're ashamed. Because we love the person hurting us. Because we keep hoping they'll change. Or because you're fabricating a story to cover up your own instability. Objection! Nina was on her feet. Counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained. Move on, Ms. Vance. Patricia tried another approach. You claim my client was planning to flee, but he had a successful career, a family, a life here. Why would he abandon all of that? Because he was embezzling money, because I found out, because I was evidence that needed to be eliminated. Or because you were a paranoid wife who accused him falsely and he defended himself when you attacked him? I didn't attack him. He tried to kill me. The cross-examination continued. Patricia attacked every aspect of Becca's story, her credibility, her mental health, her motives. But Becca held firm, answered every question, never wavered. After 2 hours, Patricia finally sat down. Becca was dismissed from the stand. As she walked back to her seat, she made eye contact with Derek for the first time since entering the courtroom. He sat there watching her, face blank. No remorse, no guilt, just cold calculation. But Becca did not look away this time. She held his gaze, let him see that she was not broken, not defeated, not his victim anymore. She was his survivor, and she was going to win. The prosecution called witness after witness. Mrs. Chen, the neighbor who saw everything through her kitchen window. She testified in detail about watching Derek strangle Becca, about calling 911, about Derek's performance afterward. He wasn't trying to help her, Mrs. Chen said firmly. He was creating an alibi. Dr. Patterson testified about the medical evidence, the strangulation marks, the timeline that made a fall impossible, the 4 minutes without oxygen. This was not an accident, Dr. Patterson said. This was attempted murder. Ethan Caldwell testified about reviving Becca, about her terror when she saw Derek, about the moment he realized this was not a fall but an attack. Her reaction was pure fear, Ethan said, the fear of someone seeing their attacker, not the confusion of someone who fell. Detective Brennan testified about Derek's inconsistent statements, his attempts to leave before police arrived, the evidence of planned flight. Thomas Reed, Derek's business partner, testified about the embezzlement, the missing money, the confrontation that happened days before the attack. And finally, Jessica Morrison took the stand. Derek's own sister, ready to destroy him. Nina asked one simple question. Why are you testifying against your brother? Jessica looked at Derek, then at Becca, then at the jury. Because he did this before in college, to another woman named Emma Richardson. My parents paid her off, made it go away, and I stayed silent because I was scared. But Becca survived. She's fighting back. And I won't let my family bury this again. She provided the NDA, the police report, the email showing Vanessa and Peter Morrison covering up their son's previous attack. The courtroom erupted. The judge called for order. Patricia Vance objected strenuously, but the evidence was already admitted. Derek Morrison was not a man who made one terrible mistake. He was a predator with a pattern, and his family enabled him. When the prosecution rested, Nina turned to Becca in the hallway. We did it. We proved every element. Pattern of abuse, premeditation, flight risk. The jury has everything they need. What if it's not enough? Becca whispered. What if they believe him? They won't, Nina said firmly, because you told the truth, and the truth is powerful. The defense put Derek on the stand. He performed brilliantly, tears at the right moments, denial of the right accusations. A picture of a man wrongly accused. I loved Becca, he said. I still love her. I would never hurt her. What happened that night was an accident, a terrible accident. She's the mother of my child. I wanted a family with her. He claimed self-defense, said Becca attacked him when he confronted her about her paranoia, said he was trying to restrain her when she stopped breathing, said he panicked and lied to police because he was scared. It was a good story, believable, sympathetic, but the evidence contradicted him. The medical reports, the witness testimony, the pattern of violence. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned. Has the jury reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. On the charge of attempted murder, how do you find? Becca held her breath, held Amelia close, felt Ethan's hand in hers. Guilty. The word echoed through the courtroom. Guilty, guilty, Guilty. Derek Morrison was convicted on all counts: attempted murder, domestic violence, assault with intent to kill. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks later. Derek was remanded into custody immediately. No bail. He was led away in handcuffs. As he passed Becca's row, he turned, made eye contact one last time, and mouthed 2 words. "This isn't over." But it was. The trial was over. The verdict was in. Justice had been served. Becca walked out of the courthouse surrounded by her chosen family: Maggie, Grace, Jessica, Ethan, Senator Caldwell, Nina, Detective Brennan, all the people who had fought for her when she could barely fight for herself. The media swarmed. Becca stopped at the microphone stand, took a breath, and spoke. "I want to tell you about the day I died, not the day Derek attacked me. That was just when my body stopped. I died slowly over 5 years. Every time I explained away his cruelty, every time I isolated myself to keep the peace, every time I believed him instead of myself. I was already dead long before his hands closed around my throat." She paused, let the words settle. "But I came back. And I hope my story helps other women come back too. From the small deaths they're experiencing, from the abuse they're explaining away, from the control they're calling love. You don't have to wait for someone to literally kill you before you leave. You can leave now. You can get help now. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining it. Trust yourself. Save yourself. Come back to life." The cameras flashed. The reporters shouted questions. But Becca turned away, went home, to the house with the security system, to the bedroom where her daughter slept, to the life she had built from the ruins. She was not a victim anymore. She was a survivor, and she was just getting started. 6 months after the verdict, Becca stood in front of 200 people at a domestic violence awareness conference. Senator Caldwell's foundation had asked her to speak, to share her story, to help others. The conference room was packed. Survivors, social workers, law enforcement, advocates, people who understood that domestic violence was not a private matter. It was a public health crisis. Becca had notes prepared, a careful speech about her experience. But when she reached the podium, she set the notes aside, spoke from her heart instead. "People ask me why I didn't leave sooner. Why did I stay with a man who hurt me? And I used to struggle with that question. Used to think there was something wrong with me, that I was weak or stupid or broken." She paused, made eye contact with the audience. "But I've learned that leaving is the most dangerous time, the most likely time to be killed. I didn't stay because I was weak. I stayed because some part of me understood that leaving might cost me my life. And I was right. The day I confronted Derek, the day I finally said enough, he tried to murder me. So the question isn't why did I stay so long? The question is how did I survive leaving? And the answer is I didn't do it alone. I had people who saw me when I was invisible, who believed me when Derek called me crazy, who stood beside me when the whole system seemed designed to protect him instead of me." She spoke for 20 minutes about Mrs. Chen watching through her window, about Ethan bringing her back to life, about Jessica choosing truth over family, about Nina fighting when Becca was too tired to fight herself, about her mother who packed an overnight bag 3 years before she needed it. "The signs were there," Becca continued. "I explained them away. I made excuses. I thought love meant sacrifice. But I was wrong. Love means safety. Love means respect. Love means choosing each other's well-being. If you're in a relationship where you're scared, where you're walking on eggshells, where you're constantly explaining your partner's behavior to yourself and others, please listen. That's not love. That's control. And it escalates. It always escalates." When she finished, the room stood and applauded. Many people were crying. After the speech, a line formed. Survivors wanting to share their stories, to say thank you, to say me too. A young woman approached, maybe 22, bruises barely hidden under makeup. "My boyfriend chokes me during arguments," she whispered. "He says it's not a big deal, that he's just showing me who's in control. Is that normal?" Becca's blood ran cold. "No, it's not normal. Strangulation is one of the biggest predictors of homicide and domestic violence situations. You need to leave. Right now. Today." "But I love him. I love Derek too. and he tried to kill me. Love doesn't make abuse acceptable. Please, get help, get safe, before he kills you. The woman took the resource card Becca offered. Contact information for shelters, hotlines, legal aid. Becca watched her walk away and prayed she would use it. That evening, back at the apartment Becca now rented, Ethan arrived with dinner. He had been doing this regularly now, bringing food, helping with Amelia, being present in ways that felt solid, safe, real. They were not officially together. Becca was not ready for that. But they were something that might become more when she was ready. You were amazing today, Ethan said, as they ate Thai food on the couch. Amelia slept in her crib nearby. The way you spoke, the way you connected with people, you're making a difference. I hope so, Becca replied. I hope my 4 minutes dead means something. Save someone. It already has. The woman you spoke with at the end, she came back, talked to the conference organizers. They connected her with a shelter. She's leaving him tonight. Becca felt tears prick her eyes. One life, maybe one life saved. Maybe that was enough. I've been thinking, Ethan said carefully, about us, about what we're doing here. Becca's stomach tightened. Okay. I don't want to push you. I know you're healing. I know you need time. But I also want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. Whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here. Becca set down her food, looked at this man who had brought her back to life, who had stood beside her through hell, who saw her as whole even when she felt shattered. I'm scared, she admitted. Derek destroyed my ability to trust, to believe that men can be good, that relationships can be safe. I know. But I'm also starting to heal, starting to remember who I was before him. And that person wants to try, to believe, to risk trusting again. We can go slow, Ethan said. As slow as you need. Slow sounds good. They smiled at each other. It was not the beginning of a perfect love story. It was the beginning of something more valuable. A partnership built on respect. A relationship founded on safety. A connection that started with the worst moment of her life, but could become something beautiful. Later that week, Becca attended Derek's sentencing hearing. She did not have to testify this time. Just watch. Just witness justice being done. The judge spoke for 20 minutes about the severity of Derek's crimes, about the pattern of violence, about the need to protect society from predators. Derek Morrison, you are sentenced to 25 years in state prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. You will have no contact with the victim. You will attend mandatory batterer intervention programming. And I sincerely hope you use this time to understand the gravity of what you've done. Derek stood emotionless. No tears, no remorse, no acknowledgement of his crimes. Even now, he believed he was the victim. Vanessa and Peter Morrison sat in the gallery, their perfect family destroyed, their son's reputation ruined, their money unable to fix this. As Derek was led away, Becca felt something shift inside her. Not relief exactly, not happiness, but closure. The door to that chapter of her life finally closing. She did not attend Derek's sentencing. She had already moved on. Instead, she was at Amelia's first birthday party, a small gathering at Maggie's house. Balloons, cake, laughter. This chosen family celebrating new life. Amelia toddled around in a pink dress. She had Derek's nose, but Becca's eyes. She was curious, fearless, a fighter from day one. To Amelia, Maggie said, raising her glass of sparkling cider. And to Becca, the strongest person I know. Everyone drank, everyone celebrated, everyone understood what this day meant. Not just a birthday, but a victory, a reclamation, a new beginning. That evening, after everyone left, Becca sat in the rocking chair with Amelia. Her daughter's head rested on her chest, listening to the heartbeat that had stopped. That had started again. That had kept going. I'm going to tell you something when you're old enough to understand, Becca whispered. About the night you were almost born without a mother. About the 4 minutes I was gone. About how you saved me by refusing to give up. She paused, chose her words carefully. Your father tried to hurt us, and I'm not going to lie to you about that, but I'm also not going to let him define us. You are not his violence. You are not his mistakes. You are your own person. Strong, brave, free. I'm going to teach you what real love looks like, what healthy relationships feel like. I'm going to show you that women don't have to accept cruelty, that saying no is not mean, that choosing yourself is not selfish. And I'm going to love you enough for both parents because you deserve that. You deserve everything. Amelia sighed in her sleep, content, safe, loved. Becca looked around the small apartment. It was not much, but it was hers. Every lock, every piece of furniture, every decision. Hers. She checked the locks once that night, just once, not 17 times, just once. Then she went to bed. And for the first time in years, she slept through the night. No nightmares of Derek's hands, no counting seconds, no fear. Just peace. The next morning, Becca woke early, made coffee, watched the sunrise through her window, thought about the woman she used to be, the woman who died on a kitchen floor. That woman was gone, but the woman who came back was stronger, wiser, more certain of her own worth. She had been dead for 4 minutes, but she had been alive ever since, really alive, finally free. And that was worth everything. Rebecca's journey from those 4 minutes of death to reclaiming her life proves that survival is just the beginning. Her story is saving lives right now, women who recognize the warning signs, who found the courage to leave, who realized they weren't crazy after all. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment telling me what struck you most. And subscribe so you never miss stories that matter. Stories about real people surviving real darkness and finding light on the other side. Your engagement helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Thank you for listening.